All right, so we are now recording. So just for the record, before we begin, your first and last name and how do you spell it?
Yeah, first name is Thomas, last name Gleason. Last name is spelled Gleason.
And I understand you have a background with multiple years in law enforcement, correct?
Yes, over between reserve time and full time, over 30 years, probably closer to 35 years of law enforcement. And additional to that, I did some teaching after retiring the second time.
Gotcha. And this all occurred in Florida, correct?
Well, not all my training hasn't. I started in Alabama and retired from two agencies in Florida, one being a state agency, one being a city agency, and then I went to work for Department of Justice in a program called Valor, teaching officer safety.
Got-
And I've taught in approximately 32 states.
Gotcha. So first question for you. Obviously, we have, there's surveillance video of kind of showing, what happened and whatnot. We see the person, approaching or just stopping, and I guess officers, for whatever reason, kind of engage with him. We don't quite see the precise moment where, they shoot him and kills him. But as far as like the moments leading up to it, just talk a little bit about how I guess surveillance video doesn't capture everything.
Well, surveillance video or video that doesn't have your audio and the full effect of everything going as far as when we talk about stress level that is actually unfolding at the time, especially when you're dealing with a person that is armed and not only armed. This was not only armed with a pistol on his side, but you was apparent that he had bulletproof vest on, and then he also had a converted Glock pistol to a rifle, or that would be like a rifle in the conversion kit. So when you have that, then you have the what we would call the level of threat to the citizens or to the officers that they're facing. With this unfolding very quickly, and that is part of what's going on, as well as any kind of background noise and everything. So they have to process it, make a decision, and those decisions have to be made in a split second.
And those split second decisions, that's something that I think every officer, if they're in that situation, have to make.
Yes, when that situation occurs, then they have to make it quickly and based upon what they have unfolding in front of their perception of it. The Supreme Court in 1989 ruled in Graham versus Connor that based upon when you go back later on and look at it, you have to look at it from the officer's perspective as what he has going on at that point in time, not what you can look at later on. And then when you're looking at it, it's hard to get a good picture on this use of force because of the angles that you were looking at for some of the observation points. And then an overhead view, it's hard for me to make a determination just looking at that because it's so high up from the one that I viewed that I could not make a determination of what was unfolding at the time, other than the officer's perception was that he was pointing the gun at him at the point in time that he shot, or the officer shot at the individual.
Of course. So in a way, a ground level shot would, and this video doesn't necessarily capture whatever was said between them or whatnot. That could lead to one thing or another.
Yeah, well, and from reading of it, it is that they had given a lawful order to for the crowd to disperse. After given to the lawful order, then sometime during this, they encountered the individual, and when they encountered him, then they used less than lethal, which would have been beanbag in this situation. What occurred after that, I couldn't get a good bird's eye view on. All I have that he was armed. He did have a bulletproof vest on, and then he had a rifle, and then these are what you're looking at, and these are unfolding very quickly in front of you, and you have to make a determination. You can't wait till after he's shot or shoots you or shoots a citizen before then you react to that.
Of course. The last few questions, when it comes to, say like a DA and whatnot, they have to look at these cases of, officer involved shootings, just how complicated can it get for, someone like that to figure out what to do, whether to charge the officers if they feel it was unlawful or not. And, how complicated can that get?
Well, it can get very complicated because what you're doing is you can have four people that witnessed something, and you'll have four different statements of what they actually saw at the scene. Not saying that any four of them are wrong. It's based upon where they're at the time and how they're viewing the situation, is how what they actually see coming from their filters of what they're looking at. It's no different than what I'd like to compare it to. If you watch a football game, you'll have different. They'll call a foul. Then you're looking at different camera angles, and and then they'll be debating, even looking at it from different camera angles. Well, this happen or this didn't happen. So, well, when you take that same analogy and you're looking at it as an officer unfolding with an armed person, in which they shot with a beanbag to begin with, and then it's unfolding so quickly, and then the officers react to his actions from the statements on what was said in the release when Las Vegas Metro did the release. They said that his perception was that he was raised the gun to shoot at him. So then we go off of that perception of his. As we look at it, you're looking as a civil versus criminal. Now, if you ask me on the DA, he's looking at the criminal. Beyond a reasonable doubt is what the burden of proof has to be there. The individual is armed. The officer says that it was a threat. We know it was a threat because it was a rifle. And then he pointed the threat, not only had the threat, but he had the capability using the threat. So we have that on that side. Under the civil side, which is a suit that's being filed, then that's a preponderance of the evidence that you have on that has to be proven on the civil side.
Of course. And lastly, is there anything else you want to add on top of everything else you said regarding, this kind of whole situation?
Well, mine is it's an unfortunate, and any time that anybody loses their life, it's an unfortunate event. Law enforcement has and continues to evolve in its training to limit these individuals, limit the amount of force used against individuals, and we should be like that. We should be always going and open to training. One of the things we say that before using deadly force now and under the 21st century policing model is understanding the sanctity of life. And that we do that, but that is a last resort. But once again, there's going to be those situations that occur. They are unfortunate, and as we train, our training is evolving, and we're getting better at our training, and we can only improve. But my heart really truly goes out to the family of the individual that got shot. It really truly does. I lost my son as a military police officer, so I know what it's like to lose a son. It's very unfortunate that anytime an incident like this occurs.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tom, for your insight. I really do appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.